So welcome to another war game review from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And we're getting the gang back together.
Yeah, but dang it, I'm glad to have you back.
So
it's pretty nice.
Who knows when you're watching this, but we're saying that
months.
We haven't played together, in like
it's been 3 weeks. Yep.
But this is our first game we've played together post WBC, post Gen Con, post my vacation. So you did a lot of stuff without me.
I did, yep.
And I missed out on a lot of that stuff, and so we finally got back together and played a war game.
Yeah, I feel like we're getting the band back together. So,
but yeah, you'll watch this in November and be like, what the heck, what are they talking about? So yes, we're recording this in the early August.
Yeah, today's the 9th, I think.
Yeah, so
it's the 9th. Unreal.
Today we are taking a look at Bonaparte's Eastern Empire from Form Square Games.
And the series is called Limits of Glory, and this is campaign number 1.
Yes, so this is the first game in what looks to be a series of two-player, what are we going to call these?
It's Napoleonic.
It's operational, campaign-level, light war games.
And I would emphasize, and I don't think this is a bad thing, the word game.
Yeah.
This is a game highly dependent on luck and die rolling. And this one particularly, we felt, or at least I felt, that there is quite an imbalance in the capabilities.
The French forces are very strong in this one.
Very strong for a couple of reasons. They do a ton of hits.
Yes.
4 to 6 hits with successful rolls, whereas the Ottomans and the Mamluks do like 1.
1 or 2.
Maybe 2.
But their target numbers are high. The French
way
are
higher.
Lower.
Yep.
And
and then the other thing that they're very much superior in is leadership.
Yes.
They have more leaders, they have better leaders, and those leaders have, there's a system called glory.
Hence the limits of glory.
It is kind of based on, Andrew said, it's kind of the concept of a good leader in the right place at the right time with the right people around him, and a little bit of luck thrown in. There's a reason Bonaparte, conquered Europe for a while, right? A couple of different times, right? They caught him in exile and then he came back, but he had a lot of skill. He had good people around him. He had good fighters.
They were very well trained, a regular army, and in this one they're going up against
Bedouins
maybe larger numerical forces, but not regularly trained in the same way that Prussians and Austrians and French were at the time.
But there is a significant difference in the values and the numbers and the bonuses that each side gets, and I just think you need to understand that when you go into this and you're playing as the coalition side. And the reality is, only a couple of events are going to bring British guys on the board. They're good. They're actually, in some ways, better than some of the troops for the French.
Yes, if you can
get them, and there's not a lot of them. You don't have a ton. So you need to keep that in mind. Overall, I actually kind of enjoyed what we were doing, even though I was getting my teeth kicked in.
Yeah.
I've also never seen you roll more 6s and 5s. So it was unreal. These dice have got to be loaded.
You roll anywhere from 1 to 4 dice. More often than not, you're rolling 4s in all your combats, and you're moving 2 or 3 to move. And it's like risk. 5s and 6s hits or successes. There's a matrix for the combat of how many hits those successes convert to, which was really nice. But it is a lot of dice chucking in this one.
Yeah.
You roll so many dice over the course of a turn and the course of a game.
And that feels satisfying.
It's
I think
gamey, right?
We talked about it. It feels like a game. It's kind of fun. I'm rolling my dice. But the real difference here is the luck factor, the glory factor.
Yeah, the French forces have a much greater capacity to re-roll their dice and to enforce re-rolls on the coalition forces.
And that is that's the kick in the teeth.
Purely from a volumetric standpoint.
Yep.
And because of the asymmetry or the discrepancy in the quality of forces, those re-rolls hurt more, right? If I can re-roll my successes will do even more damage. And if I can re-roll you out of yours, you will do nothing to me. So it's a massive swing from what might have been even.
And even when if I do 2 or 3 successes, 5s or 6s, I'm usually doing 1 to 2 hits for each of those successes. So
and I might be doing anywhere from like 7 to 10.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I get it. You're better troops, better trained, better equipped. These are literally nomadic, untrained freedom fighters, basically, for the most part. I think the Ottomans are a little more skilled.
Yeah.
I think we're pointing that out because it's not a bad thing. It's just what you need to understand the game is.
Yeah, if you're coming to this game looking for a mega crunchy, mega detailed, mega realistic, like Napoleonic simulation of the Egyptian campaign, probably that's not what you're going to get out of this.
No.
What you're going to get out of this is a fun, light,
Yep.
reasonably quick war game.
Yeah.
And
We played this for about 3 hours,
yes.
and we got to the point where it ended on an event. The game was over.
Yes.
For all intents and purposes, the game was over.
The game was over. I technically didn't have a total victory because I didn't have that last space,
Yep.
which I maybe could have made it a rush for, but there was a 30-point victory point gap. Like,
Yep.
I was at that point just waiting for to hit 14.
that you
on the
wanted to
events.
usher that.
And I had a 30-point cushion to do that.
Yep.
Which is a lot.
Now, I would say, theoretically, the way the game works out, and the fact that you have to roll a 14 for the game to end, and it has to be on
On
40
or after turn 4.
so 46. That's not going to happen all that often.
I guess it's on or after turn 5 because the first turn you don't do
Right.
an event.
You're right.
But the turns also aren't very long.
No,
You really-
1 or 2 activations apiece.
Yeah.
Generally fairly quick, although they can be drug out when
If you continue
you're hot
to
and you
succeed,
continue
yeah.
rolling. I do actually like that dynamic activation concept. That I'm going to risk it for a biscuit. I'm going to keep going. I just
Yeah.
have to roll some dice
And if I mess it up, okay, how much of my glory economy do I want to commit to that?
to try to either make an automatic success. You had some automatic victory successes.
Yeah, with Bonaparte.
6s. Or do I want to re-roll 2 or 3 of my dice to try to... And the reality is, more often than not, the French have enough glory to do that a couple of times.
Yeah, where it counts, yeah.
And it is an important part of the game, but I actually really enjoyed the activation element. I thought that was really snazzy. I even liked the fact that it came down to a roll to see how many activations we each would get. So that felt very gamey, but also felt fair. Mm-hmm. Had I rolled a little better from time to time.
But it was also interesting, right?
Yeah, it was interesting.
In a game that's light like this, I don't mind that some of that skews. Like, there was a time where I rolled no activations.
And I think I had 2 or
I
1.
think you had 1. And I was like, okay, do I just sit this out? You're going to do one thing to me. I've got all my glory rerolls for defense. Like,
Sure.
I want to usher in the game. So I want to get through as many turns as possible to hit
get
on
that,
the events
yep.
as many times as I can.
Yep.
And so it's like, well, maybe I shouldn't even bother. Like,
and that was-
it's like a pass activation.
Yeah.
Or and then the turn after that, I rolled 3 activations, and I'm like, oh dang, I've got
Yeah.
3, you've got 1. Like,
You really made
you
up.
can't really respond.
No.
And so I think in a more complex or detailed game, I might be annoyed at the
Sure.
discrepancy in some of those. But in a game like this, where it is a game,
Mm-hmm.
and that is consistent with a lot of the other mechanics in here, where it's just like, hey man, it's light, it's fun. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes you get host, sometimes you get really good. Sometimes, I mean, we had evens, like 1 to 2, 2 to 1 on a lot of activations.
Oh, yeah.
It fit with the rest of the game.
Yep. And I think that is a key here. You've got a combination of mechanics, dice heavy, a little bit luck dependent, with some mitigating factors. That all fits together with this very cool event clock.
Yeah.
But that's random, right? Some of these are really good, and if the Ottomans and the Mamluks don't get these, it's going to be really, really hard. If I don't get any British guys, and ultimately I never got any British guys, which was really fascinating to me.
Yeah,
that I
was
never
weird
rolled
how
them.
There's not many British events.
I think there were 1, 2, 4 that really would help me in that way, and there's only like
A bunch
5
of those
on the
were
board.
naval stuff, which
Yeah,
is like,
1,
whatever.
2, 3. There are a total of 5 British events on the table. That's not a lot.
No, and when you're like they've got this big old line on the combat table and they've got pieces and they're really good, but you can't get them. You can't get them.
You've got 7 French, and then you've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That feels right. You're trying to help the Mamluks and the Ottomans kind of stave off disaster.
Some of those are helping them. Some of them are hindering the French. Some
Yes.
of those, where it was like, oh, a guy died from plague. Okay, cool.
But all those things fitting together, I think, make a very interesting game. If, as you mentioned, if this was a deep hex encounter war game using these mechanics, it wouldn't quite feel the same.
Yeah, it's the mechanics are nice and light, and they all work well together. Where it doesn't feel like it's something that's out of place within the context of this game.
Right.
And I think that's kind of a credit to it. What I'll do, before we go any further, is I'll show you how it works so you can get a better gauge of what we're talking about with this.
I do think this combat, I hope you cover the combat, because I think that was really interesting, although it was very punishing.
Yeah.
But cool.
Well, yeah, we'll kind of show that, and then we'll discuss some final thoughts here. So here's a look at the map. As you look at the map here, a big chunk of it is taken up with this track, and the track is used to track VPs, but more importantly, it's used to track your glory, which is kind of this economy that we're talking about. And so it goes all the way up to 50 and kind of snails out and goes down around to here. In some instances, you might need to go above 50, but typically that's with Bonaparte, and there's some special rules about what you do with that. But basically, the rest of the map is, you can see, well, this is upside down is the way that you're looking at it. But basically, we have kind of Egypt here with the Nile Delta going this way. And then up here we have Syria, I believe is what it's called at this point. And then there's this kind of real awkward, can you see this? This little 8-space off-map box. They kind of just crammed it in the corner here, but this to Cairo and to under Egypt are adjacent. So don't be fooled by this box being over here. This is actually supposed to be right off map here. So just know that, it looks like they wanted to put all this in here, and they were able to squeeze it in around the map, and they did their best of just kind of putting everything on that they could. We have a couple off-map displays here. Here we have the French command chart, and it has this great kind of flow chart which helps you to understand seniority, who's the most senior leader on the field, who's the most senior in the stack, because in those instances you can actually send junior officers out to fight land battles, but that's very dangerous. And then we have this off-map events display, and I'll show you this. You're going to roll a d6 at the beginning of turn 2. You roll 1d6. Then you're going to roll 2d6 in turn 3, and you'll get a result anywhere here, basically. Then you're going to roll 3d6 to expand it, but every time you do one of these events that doesn't have the R for repeating, there is a matching number that goes on top and changes that event. So that's a really neat, and they did these extra big components. They didn't need to do that, but it works really well. You'll end up with a few on here, and it just means that the events still stay fresh throughout the game. But the reality is this is a game of dice rolling. This is a game of having stacks of units and traipsing around the board, trying to do combats, trying to siege cities, trying to conquer those, and as you do, so Jaffa or Jafar, I don't know how you say it, if France captures this, they gain 1 point. If the Mamluks, no, the Ottomans are green in this one. If the Ottomans lose it, they lose 2 points. And the coalition starts with like something crazy, 27 maybe? They start with a lot, because they start with pretty much everything. So if this changes hands back, the Ottomans will gain back 2 points and French will lose 1 point. So I do like the unevenness in the points. So for Damietta, we have 2 French points, 2 Mamluk, which are the grey points, 3 Ottoman points, the green ones, And if the British come into the game and you have a British stack, you're going to get 4 victory points off of that. And the British ones, 5. I think Malta's worth 5. The British points are worth a lot. Alexandria's worth 6 to them. Because, and I think down here Cairo's worth 9. Because, A, it's rare to get the British forces into the game in any major way and for them to be an effective fighting force. And so if you can get them on the board and they're able to take kind of one of these spaces, that's a massive amount of VP damage, if you think about it that way, to do to the French. So those are skewed a little bit because you might not even get them. We didn't see the British at all in this game. And if you do, you still have to use them and wield them, and you're going to be doing precision strikes with them. You're not going to be able to take all of these. It's extremely unlikely that that's going to be the case. So anyway, basically you're moving around, trying to capture as many points as you can as the French. You're trying to take all of them, gain VPs, and there's a few additional VPs that you can pick up. If you drop off the Savants shit way down in the Valley of Kings, so you have to have fought your way all the way down here, all the way down this off-map box, and then dump these guys in the Valley of Kings, take your little picture, ride all the way back. This gets you, I think, 6 VPs, so the 4 or 6. So that's a nice little bonus. The other thing that you can do is if you roll the Napoleon Returns event, you can optionally send Napoleon home. So you lose Napoleon's glory, which is extremely powerful, but if you decide to basically have him go home, you take him, you have to march him all the way to the coast, and then embark him upon his little ship, what do I do with this ship? Oh, they're over here. They're already in Genoa. The Muron. And then you have to sail them across. All the whiles you might be intercepted and that kind of stuff. And if you send him home, he's permanently out of the game, but you get 9 victory points for that, which again is a very large amount. So there's ways that you can rack up points that's very difficult for the opponent to take away. But some of those are, events dependent. Some of them is dependent on making this kind of headlong charge down here where you're not protecting this as much, but it's all doable. But basically the game itself is going to work with a number of activations. In this game, 5s and 6s hits basically. I think and so you roll dice and it's how many successes did you get? Great, 1. And then the French are going to roll and they got 1 as well. So before we do any re-rolls, currently we're going to have 1 momentum token each, which means we're going to do 1 activation basically. And an activation can go for a long time if you want to kind of do a bunch of stuff and you can roll well to keep going. But what you don't want to see is if someone rolls really well or goes into re-rolls and they end up with like 3 momentum markers and you only have the 1. You might do a lot with your 1, but 3 means there's at least 2 things that you cannot react to. So that's something to consider. And to do re-rolls, you go over here and you look for your most senior commander. And so you can, once again, you can look at your command display. Normally it's Bonaparte, and he's got this little 1 on him, but we sent him home. So next we go to Kleber. And so we look for Kleber on here, and he's right here. So he can spend 1 for 1, 2, to re-roll 2 of my French dice to try and get some more. I didn't, so that was a waste, and that's the gamble, right? You waste your glory. And so in this instance, the coalition is going to have 3 activations, and I'm going to have 1. Well, what does an activation look like? An activation is quite simply, you pick a guy, and so we've got Jazar Pasha here, and what the French don't have as much, there's a lot of off-map holding boxes for troops that the coalition player definitely has, the allied player, sorry. So Jazar Pasha has 17, 18, 19, so he's got 23 guys. However, he's laying siege to Desai in Jafar, and so he's been doing it for like 2 turns. So the cavalry do not count. So really he's only got 9, 10, 11 power here. We do have Nelson in an adjacent sea zone, so he can provide naval support. So we had 11, and then we're going to add the British naval support. British naval support is worth 4 because they were pretty good. So we're going to end up with 15. So we're going to roll on this 15 chart. We are Ottomans, so we're going to roll on this particular space here to conduct a siege. Desai has with him, he's the only one who has an off-map box, he's got 3 guys with him. So he's only got 3 guys, but because he's holed up in this stronghold, that gives you an additional 5. So he's got 8. So he's going to be rolling on this column right here. So first we're going to roll the red dice. Oh wow, we rolled really well. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the total. So we've got 18, 19, 20, 21. And we compare that to this big number here. And that is, did we hit? If you miss this number, quite simply, you flub, you do nothing. So that's pretty good. So we hit that number, and then we're doing a siege, so each 6 is 1 hit. So we're going to do 3 hits. That's massive, okay? So we'll go to the French roll. Technically, you do these simultaneously, but we're just going to do them separately for the camera so we can kind of see everything. They rolled not nearly as well. So they were rolling on this table here, and they need to hit a 13. And so we've got a 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we just hit the 13. And in a 13, for siege, a 5 is 2 hits. So currently, with 3 hits in, 2 hits out. So with the attacking player deciding first, the active player deciding first, they're going to decide whether or not to re-roll any of their own dice. And they will choose not to because this is an extremely good roll. Then it goes to the passive player, the defender. They are going to choose to spend glory to re-roll any of their dice. And so this is where we're going to do that, because this is pretty bad. So we're going to re-roll these 2 2s and try to roll them into something better. So Kleber over here, we're going to spend 2 points. So we go from a 15, 13, 12. Oh, there's a 14. Sorry, I'm an idiot. 15, 14, 13. So we're going to re-roll 2. So we're going to re-roll these, and hopefully we can roll them into 5s and 6s. We did not. Indeed, that's very bad, because I rolled myself out of a success, which is very on brand for me. So currently I'm doing nothing. Okay, and then we go to the last phase of combat. So we've made the decision to re-roll our own dice, and now, starting with the opponent, we can choose to re-roll the opponent's dice. So the Ottoman player, he's the active player, he has to choose first. He could spend his precious glory to re-roll, and you're trying to re-roll your opponent out of a success. Well, currently, I'm already out of a success, and I, as the French player, cannot do anything more because I already messed up my re-roll, basically. So the Ottoman player will choose not to spend glory to re-roll the blue dice. Now, in this particular instance, the French player basically has to pay to re-roll these. We're going to try to effectively use our glory to buy the Ottomans out of a victory here. Because as it stands, they're going to do 3 hits to us, and we're going to do 0. That's going to annihilate our forces. That's very bad. We really can't afford that. So, because we're the defending player, we get final choice. So Kleber's going to spend 1, 2, 3. We're going to re-roll all of these 6s, just to kind of guarantee, because if I roll 3 6s again, well, it's meant to be. Perfect, I rolled really badly. That's exactly what we were looking for. Because in this instance, even though we rolled a 5, which is a success, we rolled so low that we missed the 16, so doesn't hit anyway. So using all of our glory and our terrible re-rolls, we re-rolled this into a 0-0 stalemate, basically. And because that's what's happened, the Ottoman player puts one of these momentum markers to basically conclude this player's action, and they're done. Then it flips over to the French player. The French has 1 momentum marker, and then they would get done, and then the Ottomans are going to have 2 more. You can't reactivate the same guy, so they'd be moving some other people on the board. For reference, let's look at a little French move here. So we'll just kind of leave these guys out, just so we can kind of see what happens. So let's move Dumas out of Cairo. Let's say we want to activate him. So to move out of an area, you need to roll 1 success. And to do that, you're going to roll a number of dice equal to the number printed on the geographic space. So Cairo's got good roads, we're going to roll 4 dice, we just need 1 success. And I didn't roll any because I'm incredible. So Dumas is going to spend 1, 2, 3 to re-roll 3 dice because I really need to get out of here. And I rolled 1 success. And I can move out. That was extremely expensive. Ideally, when you're rolling lots of dice, you just are naturally getting these. We blitzed across the map and had to do very few re-rolls. When Dumas moves into this space, because there are these Bedouin markers, the Bedouins attack. They're going to spend that number of dice, and for every success they get, 2, amazing, I lose 2 glory from that commander, 1, 2. Because there's 3 here, I can attempt reprisals. If I roll a success on every single one of these dice, we will kill that Bedouin marker. So this is where I would consider a re-roll. So I'm going to spend 1 for a re-roll. Oh, I didn't do it. But 1 in 3 chance, you're going to remove that so you can move freely. These are gone from the game permanently. No big deal. If not, they just sit there. They don't block movement. You just have to, they'll attack your glory again next time. So I moved and had my glory robbed of me. This is a 3 space, so I'm going to move out of that 3 space. And I succeeded because I got any amount of successes. So this is where I'm going to go to the 2 space, because even though the 1 space is shorter to get over here, that's much more difficult to do. So 2 dice, no, messed it up. I can re-roll both, which I succeed, and then we'll go into here where I've got 4 dice. And I rolled a success, so you move out of there. And so that's how you move across the board, and you keep going until you fail out, and you mess up your re-rolls, or you just choose not to. So you can march across the board, get robbed of your glory, kill these guys, move in here, fight a field battle, move down here. You can keep going as long as you keep succeeding. And so this is where we talk about the French being very powerful, because they roll on this table. So their target numbers are much lower than all of the Ottomans, or if you have no commander, or the Mamluks are also not very good. This is why the British are good, but it's a luck, basically, to get them onto the board because they come from events. But the French are going to charge around, they're going to hit their target numbers more easily, and then if every 6 they get rolls 4 hits, every 5 is 3 hits. So if you win a battle and it looks like this, you're going to do 7 hits to the opponent. And the opponent, if they hit their 18 and succeed, might do 1 hit per 6 and nothing with 5s. So the asymmetry of this means that the French kind of walk around, slapping everyone around, but they have to leave guys and garrisons behind to maintain their control and their victory points. So what happens is what we've got here is you'll have, there's like 1 or 2 dudes in like all of these towns, basically. There's a few more in Alexandria, but you've got, a few guys kicking around everywhere. And so they'll be rolling on these slightly more difficult and less advantageous combat results, as opposed to up here, they're just wrecking house. But in theory, you're going up against them with stuff that you can do. So it evens the odds. They're more brittle because they really can't afford to sustain losses. So you'll spend a lot more of that glory in defense of your guy with 1 dude in it, because you have to guarantee that he doesn't get eliminated, basically. So it forces your hand in that way, and you have to be prepared for that. But that's kind of the flow of the game. Like, I go, and I push as the French. as the allied player, you're going to do a little bit here and a little bit here, maybe, kind of weather that storm. Hopefully, you can get big reinforcements from the British to come in, but again, that's down to some luck with the dice rolls. And then try to challenge to take away some VPs here and there, and do what you can from that front. But that's kind of how the game works and functions. You're just trying to capture the cities, pick up victory points, and then whenever the game ends, and it ends by rolling, once you have 4 dice, so you've gone through at least 4 or 5 turns, and you hit a 14 on 46, which we did. Oh, here you go, just rolled right there. The game ends, and whoever's got the most VPs wins. You can win a domination victory, and I would... which I had done, except for taking this, and this is, it doesn't look like it, but this is a long way away. So if you can do that, and you can do everything else here, you can kind of insta-win, but that, again, that's very challenging to do. So what we'll do is we'll wrap up here with a few final thoughts. So that was a look at how the game functions. Like you said, the combat is a really interesting part of this game, because you roll that fixed 4 dice, you have a target number to hit, but the target number's dependent on how many guys you have, like what your combat strength is.
Oh, the target that you're trying, yes.
Yeah, or if you have a leader or not, right, with you. And then you also have the subset within that. Okay, if you hit your target number, you then have your 5s and 6s, how many hits will they convert to based on whatever column you're rolling on. And you also have the combat versus siege as well. Yeah. And, you know, the Mamluks can't siege at all.
Right.
Or, you know, if you're in multiple rounds of sieging, your cavalry stop counting.
I did enjoy that.
It's neat.
Although it's very painful, because I have a lot of cavalry, but that is interesting, and I'm glad they included that in the game.
And there's some things that aren't in the rules that I maybe you would expect in a war game, where it's like, hey, you can't do this, or you can do this pretty explicitly. So we played some of the things in here more gamily, that's not a word, than we normally would have. So I think about the siege of Jaffa up here.
Yeah.
Where you'd assaulted and then laid siege, and you're like, well, now my cavalry suck. I'm going to pull out and then go back in to do another assault so I don't have to do a siege.
I tried to do that.
Right.
It didn't work.
But
it was an option.
That's the glory of it. I thought that was a really,
it was
funny,
unique.
Cool little game bit where you're like, okay,
let's get a running start. That's basically what I was saying,
the system is here to be gamed because it's not like the most serious thing, but it's a risk thing, right?
Yep.
You pull out of that,
and I failed the roll.
And then you'd also have to roll to get back in. So there was another, and that's worse than 2s.
Yeah, it's hard.
So but if you had successfully done that, that's not insignificant. But
well, I think I would have taken it then. Most likely, probably not.
It would have been closer,
more likely,
because I still had 3 guys.
The reality of the only complaint I had about the game as we were talking, and it was probably because of the way it continually neutered what I was trying to do, was the discrepancy in the glory points. You had so many glory points that you honestly could force me to reroll every time and generally be okay.
I think we, looking back on the game, figured that I think
you would have had 4 or 5 more turns before I would have even been able to hurt you.
Yeah, I had
most likely.
I had at least 3 here and probably at least 4 or 5 here. And
nothing I can do about that.
I don't think that I lost a single combat in this game, or
I feel like I won 1 combat,
or I lost 1 here, and that's what forced me to go into the city, maybe.
Probably.
But how many combats did we do, right?
20. I mean,
way more than
25, maybe 30, and I won 1. And so that's just part of it.
And that's possible, partly because we had some pretty hot dice rolling, but I have so much glory, I can re-roll my stuff into successes, and I can force you into failure.
Yeah.
And you have some glory, so you cannot do that back to me in a significant way.
Comparatively, my best leader on the board is this Pasha. Jezer Pasha.
And he has 8 glory.
8 glory to start, plus a 46 roll. So the most I can have is 32.
Compared to like my Desai, who has 19 plus 46.
Yeah, you're going to have anywhere from 30 to 40.
Napoleon started with like
50 plus you had
61.
11 of those automatic 6, which was crazy.
And he burns through it a lot. But
and I would say the other thing that I thought I did really well, first part of the game, I caught you, I attacked you, I intercepted you, and as you were embarking, that ultimately cost you what? 4 infantry?
Was it 6 infantry?
Maybe it was 6 infantry, and it cost you like an automatic 6 victory or a glory.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh, I'm doing, and then you rolled, and I'm like, hell. I mean, you just rolled really well. You could have rolled a bunch of 1s.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have had anywhere near what you had, but that's the game.
Yes and
right?
no. I still have a ton of glory out on the board.
You still have a ton.
It's...
Well, it's kind of funny. If you looked at this part of the board, which is the glory track and the VP track, all of my gray and gold guys are all under 13.
Yeah.
This guy he just started and he's at 13.
I think, you had one guy at like 23 or something, and everyone else started at 13 or less, pretty much.
But I had to use all those to...
It's just the way it is. In like movements and stuff too.
I was terrible at movement.
Which the coalition player really can't afford to do.
And you made every single move roll, I feel like. A few you've
And I
botched.
think that might be... I think that's something... When you play this again, the Ottomans really, if you mess up your movement roll, just kind of eat it.
Yeah.
Because I think burning through your glory for those...
Just to move, is not worth it.
Is less powerful.
I would agree. I think we learned some things about the game. I think I would do differently.
Because every time you were torching your glory to move, I was like, sweet.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm now going to win the combats.
Because I expected you to have to do the same thing, but no. You literally, I thought it was hilarious. I just have to say this. You literally waltzed from, and I use the word waltz.
Oh, yeah.
From Suez in Syria, right?
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, like 15,
13, 14,
16,
15, 16, 17,
18, 19,
19, 20, 21.
You literally waltzed across the entire... This isn't the Saharan. What's the desert here?
We'll call it the Middle East.
The Middle East deserts. And I thought to myself, surely he's going to miss some of these. He's going to, and he never did.
Not only that,
5s and 6s, 6s, 6, 6,
it's worse than that, because we fought at least 3 combats in that as well.
Oh, and I didn't even come close. Didn't even come close. So I say that because I thought that was a memorable part of the game, even though it sucked.
It was like a 20-minute turn.
Oh, it was ridiculous. But that's what I like about the activation system. You can do that. If you continue to have success, it's like you're building on your momentum, and and that's great. It felt cinematic. It felt narrative driven. And I enjoyed it, even though you were beating the crap out of me. And that's okay. But that was crazy.
It's also one of those things where we thought, this would make...
Great
I'm
solo
surprised there's not a solo module in it. Because
is there?
Before I open my mouth and say there isn't. I don't think there is. Those are events.
Yeah, I don't see one. Nope.
If you could... It would not be difficult to make this a solitaire game where you just play as the French and you maybe buff up some of the strongholds and make a little kind of enemy movement mechanic. And that would also be really enjoyable, where you get to go and like romp around, pierce into the Valley of the Kings, drop off your guys,
shoot the Sphinx's nose off. We were laughing about that, right?
Try and like run all the way back and like conquer the place, both in time and intact, right?
Yeah.
But so this reminds me in a way, just of Field Commander Napoleon.
And which I've never played. I played Field Commander Alexander.
Yes. Field Commander Napoleon is much better.
Okay.
It's very good. The rulebook's not good, but it's a really fun game. But I remember playing the Egyptian campaign in that one, and good gracious, is it difficult.
Okay.
And I was expecting this to be like that.
Sure. We even had that conversation at the beginning.
It had some,
this was one of Napoleon's toughest campaigns.
Yeah, it had some similar feel to it, where it was like, you got this big old stack of forces, they land, and then like very quickly, where you have to like leave garrisons everywhere, you're just like,
whittles them down.
You know, Napoleon ends the game with like, how many?
2 or 3 guys.
It was like 4 guys and a cannon with him. You're like, okay, but that's still very strong.
But once again, even though you had 4 guys, man, you could still do 10, 12 hits.
Yeah, 4
and force me to re-roll all my hits every time. But and like, still had the glory.
You had that great arc of your forces dwindling or being spread out. That was neat.
I started to get excited as I saw that. I'm like, ooh, I may end up winning.
But there wasn't that extra layer of where Field Commander Napoleon's like, everyone dies.
Yeah.
There's so much plague. It's so difficult. When you go across the map, you run into things that are more than just speed bumps. It's like cripplingly difficult at times.
Yeah.
This one, you have so much economy with your glory points. It didn't have that extra level of like challenge and difficulty.
It did have the feeling of being stretched too thin.
Yes, it did do that. Which I really liked, and that's what I was expecting.
You were stretched too thin, but you were pretty damn strong still.
Yeah, even being thin, you know, I stretched myself thin by battering your guys, and I might only have 1 guy and a leader in a stronghold, but that's not going anywhere.
I will say this, and we only played once.
Yep.
We played a full game. We got through it. I think we grokked everything pretty simply. We made some mistakes early that we corrected later. I think overall, I had a good time playing it, even though I got destroyed. I enjoyed what I was doing. It just didn't feel good to see, I hit you 3 times, but I had to reroll every time.
Yeah, I was able to like really...
Too brutal.
The French player dictates a lot of what happens.
Sure. And this is the first game in the series. I think it's trying to break everybody into the system. Now, there's a new one on Kickstarter, depending on when you watch this. It is the Meta 1806 campaign, which I believe is in Italy, if I'm not mistaken. Don't.
I think Italy's earlier than that.
Okay.
Italy was his first campaign.
So I'm not geographic.
1806 might be Poland.
Maida, though. That doesn't sound very Polish. M-A-I-D-A. Anyway, not important. Maybe this is the first game in the series. It's trying to break you into the concepts, which are quite unique and different.
Yeah, I've not played anything quite like this.
Yeah, it definitely is unique. It corners the market on uniqueness. But maybe that next campaign will be different. I don't know. There's also a Capri one that's kind of an add-on to the second one's campaign. So it's like campaign 3 and 4.
Okay.
I don't know much about those, to be completely honest. But I do think this would make an excellent solo game. You're going to play as the French against the coalition, and you're just going to have to futz with the first naval part, which I don't think is that important of a part of the game. It is quite important, but not overly important.
Yeah,
it can make a difference.
You could figure out a way to do that pretty easily.
Yeah, just make some priorities about where Nelson's going to go.
Don't just make it random.
Sure.
Because
it is random. You're just...
What I did, because I'm finding that I give away what I'm doing.
Okay.
So I just like randomly put Napoleon on one of those boats, and I didn't
pay attention?
So I didn't know which one it was, so I couldn't give it away. And it turns out that he landed on Malta, and I did it by accident.
Yep.
But you could do that, so you don't know. So then you play Nelson trying to catch him.
Sure.
And then once you get to land, great, you're Napoleon doing your stuff.
And it was interesting. I made a hell of a comeback there. I went across the entire Med in one turn. I literally activated all the way down, and I caught you, and I guessed right, intercepted you, and it was Napoleon's ship. So you lost some men.
Lost some guys.
And that was good.
Imagine if I had like
6 more guys.
I mean,
would have been even more of a discrepancy. In the end, Alexander scored 37 VP to my 7. Right? 37 to 7. And the game is such that I think I started with like 27 or 28, and you whittled that down. But some of these...
Because it's
It's a pendulum in some ways.
They're an uneven pendulum. So when I gain them, I gain a few, but you lose more.
Yeah.
But then if you get British in and they recapture places,
gain more.
They gain way more, and I lose only a few. So it's very interesting.
That is an interesting thing, and that's why I really feel bad that we didn't see the British come in, but that might change the game. Who knows? At this point, I'm not sure it was salvageable for the coalition.
Yeah, because at this point, I'm waiting for the 14 to hit.
You're just trying to...
And
there's not much else you could have done, really.
Yeah, and I can afford to lose 30 victory points.
And still win the game.
Which, this gives up 2. I lose
and that one gives up 2.
I have to lose basically everything.
Yeah, I'd have to get Malta, which gives me 5, and then I'm not even close. It's just tough. It's tough. I did really enjoy the event clock, though. We didn't really talk a lot about that. I thought the Allied command chart was kind of nifty, where you're kind of laying your guys out, and actually gave me a feel of, I understand where the pecking order is here. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I have a much more kind of in-depth command structure.
Okay.
But you have a lot more of the holding boxes and stuff as well. Yeah. And these it's neat from like a little historical standpoint.
You kind of learn.
There is also a mechanic where if you have like your senior leader and your junior leader, you can send your junior leader out to use his rerolls, which you normally couldn't get access to if they're in the same space.
You definitely want to send him out.
And so you use up these crappy rerolls that you would have had access to, but if they lose on a 5 or a 6, he dies.
Yeah.
So
which you only lost 1 combat. So not going to happen a whole lot.
Sending out, junior leaders if you want to get all those out. That's also a really little neat part of it. I didn't end up doing any of that, but
look at that roll.
Yeah, that's what this game is. It's 5s and 6s.
I swear we rolled more 5s and 6s than I've ever seen.
This is one of the hottest games we've played probably ever.
It's insane.
I wish we'd been playing.
I rolled another 5. Yeah. I mean, just insane. You literally one time rolled 4 6s.
I genuinely rolled 4 6s.
And I thought
for a movement roll.
Yeah, it was a movement roll, and I was like, "Ooh, that wasn't hits." But I think overall, I enjoyed the system. I enjoyed learning it. I enjoyed playing it. I would like to maybe flip it and me do the French just to see how that felt, and see if you could do something different with the Mamluks and the Ottomans that I didn't.
I wish it was a little shorter so you could more easily do that in a single sitting. Like Memoir 44, you play it, you flip it, you play it.
The game can end about 90 minutes if you go hog wild, but that's not going to happen that often. But
and hope,
anyway,
hope because I don't know. This is their first game.
It is.
I hope that maybe a little tighter organization of some of the rules. They got a great index on the back.
Yep.
Really like that.
And I really like that they were big. Like the text is big.
Yeah.
I can see it.
It's really friendly from that. But
lots of nice tables that...
Nosing around for a couple of things...
was a little hard.
The layout was a bit weird at times, but...
The good examples...
The reference on the back is excellent.
And I thought the examples were good, and let's talk about the production. The map is very functional. We talked about that. It works.
Yeah, so...
There's all these numbers, this area...
Andrew Rourke, right?
Yep.
I presume he did the graphic design as
well.
No,
he did not. There were 2 or 3 guys. Okay. They're listed somewhere. They did all the graphic. And once again, all of the style is very 18th century. We even talked about it. John Company, very similar. Right?
Yeah,
had a similar look and feel.
Because they've used all of the historical, satirical cartoons and things from newspaper clippings.
Yep.
That's what all the counters are from. It's all this style on the little counters and such.
Kind of
like
unique.
that.
But the board is not, it's not ugly, it's functional. I guess that's what I would say about it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hang this one on the wall.
But it's clearly like...
It's mounted.
It is mounted, but it doesn't have that nice, I don't know how you describe, like the edging and the backing that
there's not a border
from GMT would have.
Yeah.
So just know that that's what you're getting. Like, this is a brand new company.
First game.
And it is... guys doing it themselves.
Yep.
And we're trying to support that because...
Well, I did this on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
It was, I don't want to say it was like $65. It wasn't bad at all.
And that's from the UK.
Yep. And I think it's a good quality game, lots of nice components. I look forward to the second one to see how they massage the system and maybe the production.
Yeah,
to fix some of the issues that I have.
But you know, this is the little combat board.
Yeah.
Massive, heavy piece of cardboard.
So
right?
is the event clock.
And these like pre-rounded big counters.
Yep.
Those are really nice. The pieces are really nice. You know,
Nice dice.
the only
loaded dice.
thank
Yeah.
and you included enough dice.
Look at that! You just rolled 2 6s and a 5. You flipped those, and I just rolled 2 5s.
How many games do we play that don't have enough dice in them?
Oh, so many that we have to dig through our dice.
How many games do we play that don't have color-coded dice?
Every game. These are color-coded, they're big, they're enough.
Like that.
You never roll more than 4 dice, ever.
Those extra little bits and pieces make a big difference. You
Yep.
know, again, the board has...
The board's nice.
But you can kind of see where it's fixed. That's the...
Sure.
If they can get that to the next level,
Yep.
you've now started to get like what looks like a premium game
Yeah.
that you would get from any other company, and you wouldn't be able to know this was their first game.
And I think they will get there. I mean,
Right.
first effort, they did pretty well. The new Kickstarter, I think, is doing pretty well. So I
Yeah.
wish them luck. I really do.
Yeah, and I look forward to seeing what more we can get out of A, this system, or B,
Yeah.
if they do anything else. We're always looking for something that's a bit new,
Yeah.
a bit fresh as well.
Unique and interesting.
So, Bonaparte's Eastern Empire from Form Square Games. Check this out if you're interested in, but appreciate you very much for tuning in. I'm Alexander for theplayersaid.com.
And I'm Grant.